Let's understand ratios. A ratio is comparing two quantities that have the same units. Now, the big thing there is the same units. So we could be doing cups to cups, miles to miles, hours to hours, but the same units. That makes it a ratio. Now, we can write ratios three ways. We can write it as a fraction. Let's say A over B. We can use the word to, A to B. Or we can use a colon. All three of these are fine. They all say the same thing, A to B. That is it. That is what it means. I personally prefer fractions because it's the easiest for me to reduce or simplify ratios in that form. Just make sure you're reading the directions of how a question wants you to answer it. All right, so let's go ahead and write the simplified ratio. Now, this is 45 to 63. Again, I mentioned that I prefer fractions. You don't have to write it as a fraction if you don't want. We're just simplifying. But the big thing for me is that I want to be able to see it in a way that makes sense to me. So that's exactly what you should do. Now, order matters. Whatever comes first would be on the top. If I wrote this with a colon, that is what would come first with a colon. So order does matter. Now, when I look at 45 and 63, to me, the first thing that jumps out is 9. Maybe for you it's 3. There's not a right or wrong answer what you start with. You just have to make sure you reduce until you are completely simplified. So again, I see that the numerator and denominator are reducible by 9. So 45 divided by 9 is 5, and 63 divided by 9 is 7. Now 5 and 7 share no common factors, so that is my reduced simplified ratio. I could also write that as 5 to 7 or 5 colon 7. All three are correct in being a simplified ratio. 120 to 35. Again, I prefer to reduce in fraction form. It makes more sense in my head. Now here, a 0 and a 5, that means they're both reducible by 5. So that's what I'm going to work with. 120 divided by 5 is 24. 35 divided by 5 is 7. 24 and 7 do not share common factors, and therefore, that's it. So I could do 24 to 7 or 24 colon 7. Remember, order matters. And then we have 32 colon 14. Well, 32 over 14. Right? I always put them in fraction form to reduce. That's what makes sense in my head. You do what works for you. 32 and 14 are both even, so they're both reducible by 2. I always simplify first with whatever I see first. I want to make these numbers smaller. I don't care how many times it takes me that I have to reduce. I want it to be what is easy and comes quickest. 32 divided by 2 is 16. 14 divided by 2 in this case is 7. That's it. So I would have 16 colon 7 or 16 to 7. All three of these are correct. Let's do just one more, 18 to 42. So 18 to 42. Again, I see even numbers, so I'm going to divide by 2. Well, 18 divided by 2 is 9. 42 divided by 2 is 21. Well, those are both divisible by 3. If you saw first that they're both divisible by 6, that's awesome. High five. Good job. You did one step instead of 2 like me. Doesn't matter. 9 divided by 3 is 3. 21 divided by 3 is 7. Whether it takes you 1 step or 2 steps, you're going to get there, right? That is the big key. So I have 3 to 7 or 3 to 7. Oops. All three of those are correct. And again, reduce with what makes sense to you. Do it on your time, your terms, your number of steps, because that is what matters.